Park is supported by A Taste of Greece. Located in Peddler's Village at the St. Jacob's Farmers Market, A Taste of Greece serves up delicious and traditional Mediterranean cuisine. Gyros, chicken and pork souvlaki, Greek salad, spanakopita, baklava, all prepared in-house from scratch with recipes passed down from generations. We especially recommend their simple, delicious veggie pita, packed with fresh, locally sourced ingredients and authentic tzatziki. With 25 years at the market, A Taste of Greece has a loyal clientele of regulars and newcomers who quickly become repeat customers. Treat your taste buds to A Taste of Greece at the St. Jacob's Farmers Market, Thursdays and Saturdays. We think you'll say, Oppa! Bonn Park is supported by Merry Maids of Kitchener, Waterloo, and Cambridge. Merry Maids has been tackling home cleaning jobs for more than 40 years, and their expertise is evident. Their attention to detail and conscientious work has left thousands of homes spotless and sparkling. They can do the same for yours. It's all thanks to their staff who take pride in their work, so much so that they have a 100% customer satisfaction guarantee. Wherever and whenever Merry Maids is needed, you can be sure of a service that meets and exceeds your expectations every time. A clean home is a healthy home, and Merry Maids know how to combat dust, dirt, and germs that can affect the health of you and your family. Merry Maids has been recognized by numerous awards, both for their cleaning expertise and their business practices. And let's face it, you'd rather spend your precious time doing something more enjoyable than cleaning. Cross house cleaning off your to-do list, which is long enough already. Call today to book a free estimate at 519-894-4701 or visit merrymaidskWC.ca. You owe it to yourself and your home to trust the talented team at Merry Maids. Bonn Park is supported by Ayers Bulk Food and Baking Supplies. What sets Ayers apart from other bulk food stores? Plenty. It's not just the high quality of their bulk foods, baking ingredients, and cooking accessories. And it's not just their good prices. What really sets Ayers apart is the family atmosphere and exceptional customer service. Family run in Waterloo since 1979, Ayers has thrived by creating a comfortable, clean environment that you will want to visit again and again. Whether you're a culinary expert or a newbie in the kitchen, Ayers has what you need, including knowledgeable staff who are happy to help. With the holidays fast approaching, Ayers is stocking up on baking supplies like flours, including wheat-free and gluten-free options, as well as cake, decorating supplies, and more cookie-cutter shapes than you can imagine. Plus, they've got all the kitchen classics you'll need, from freshly ground peanut butter, oats, brown sugar, and pecans, to pasta, goji berries, spices, and so much more. Have a look around Ayers Bulk Food and Baking Supplies for yourself at 354 King Street North in Waterloo, near the corner of King and Columbia, or visit them online at ayersbakingsupplies.com. That's AYRES bakingsupplies.com. We are supported by Gifted in Waterloo. If you're looking for the perfectly unique gift for the perfectly unique person in your life, you've got to get to Gifted. Since 2015, Gifted has offered some of the quirkiest, funkiest, and coolest stuff you could give a friend or treat yourself to. Whether you're looking for something bookish, cute, nerdy, self-indulgent, or you don't know what you're looking for, you're bound to find it in Gifted's beautiful shop at 181 Park Street in Waterloo. Imagine a hand-drawn portrait of your favorite local haunt, or a one-of-a-kind greeting card, or jewelry and kitchenware crafted by Ontario craftspeople. Gifted is a store with soul, packed with tons of awesome, affordable, and imaginative gift ideas you won't find on just any shelf. You can find Gifted Waterloo on Facebook or Instagram. You can check out their website at giftedwaterloo.com, or you can browse the beautifully curated shelves to your heart's content with extended holiday store hours with no Christmas music guaranteed. Now, how's that for a gift?
Welcome to Bonn Park.
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 Welcome to Bonn Park. I'm Sara Geidlinger.
And I'm Marshall Ward.
And today we have Lina Shamoun.
Yeah, Lina is the owner of Artline Salon in Belmont Village.
And she's also an award-winning stylist on a global level. If you look at her website, there's just tons of information about gold medals, silver medals, world awards, entrepreneur of the year, female entrepreneur of the year. She has crushed it, and she just keeps going strong. She talks a lot on this episode about community and building a team atmosphere in her salon.
Yeah, quiet leadership and also just creating masterpieces. You have to see it for yourself on her website. It just completely wows me in the kind of creation she and her talented team create.
And also it wowed you that they use yak hair.
Yeah, exactly.
Here she is, Lina Shamoun. Lina Shamoun, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome.
You were a very brave stranger, like so many souls before you, that have come across the threshold to meet us and talk to us, and you trusted our Instagram was real.
Well, you sounded real on the email when I read your email. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. I just love that you were able to be straight up in your emails and just kind of say what it was. So many times we get emails from different things, whether it's campaigns or whatever, and you have to get past the first 5 sentences to figure out exactly what the person is looking for, who they are. So
it's like trying to find a recipe online.
Yeah.
When I was traveling in the woods of the Appalachians, I came across this recipe.
I call it mental gymnastics. Yeah. I don't really have the ability these days. Just tell me what you want.
Let's get to
right
the
away.
point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Lina's website, Artline Salon, something grabbed me right away, and it was Lina's bio.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple things there when I read that. One is I want to talk about you growing up in Baghdad.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing is, and this is interesting for me because I've never met anybody else who ties right into an artist that I absolutely love named Caroline Varen, who's a Canadian-Polish artist. And her work is all about, she's an oil painter, and she left Poland at the age of 12 and moved to Canada. Mm-hmm. And as she moved through her 20s and as a painter, a lot of her work would be about exploring this cultural duality and these ideas. She would go back to Poland and then come back to Canada. Mm-hmm. And it was about how she began to not ever really feel at home in Canada, but when she went back to Poland, she wasn't feeling at home. Mm-hmm. And then visually, if her work has just an enormous amount of poppies blowing through a field, or any number of landscapes in that, or things she would paint about the town.
Okay, well, so obviously the one thing I always remember when I do tell the story, whether it is to friends or family, or even just to sort of myself, really, when I do think about, sometimes how life has been for the last sort of 15, 20 years, is that I look at it from a 12-year-old's perspective. And so when I was 12, when my parents announced that they were leaving Iraq, the only thing I was the most excited about is that I didn't have to go to school that year, because it was going to be the next level of I guess education. I was just so excited that I didn't have to study anymore and do math and science and all that stuff. And then it was I was just happy that I wasn't going to go to school, because I guess I was not wanting to go to school that year. But I'm oh my God, the things that were ahead at that time that I figured that I had no idea, And so when I remember those fun things or those silly things that I was doing at the time, I was 12 years old. And so I didn't know what my parents meant. All that it sounded like was that we were going to go on a trip, and then it wasn't going to be, this neighborhood anymore, or the school that I went to anymore. So it's pretty fascinating. It's hard to put it into words now as a 36-year-old woman, to be very honest with you, because so much happens so fast. I can't believe it's already been over 25 years that we've left. Do you know what I mean? Even just sitting and saying this right now to you, it just doesn't sound real. So you're right, there is a little bit of that surrealness to it. But all I can tell you is that, my life changed, and my parents' life and my siblings' life changed forever when we decided to leave. It's been probably the most exciting thing that ever happened, was just that my parents made the decision to leave, because everything else sort of became what it is now because of that decision. But I didn't make it. Someone else made it for me. So unless you have questions about it, it's very difficult to take that and put it into a sentence, other than just me remembering jumping up and down saying, oh my God, I don't have to go to school anymore. I don't have to go to school anymore. Meanwhile,
I have a 12-year-old, and I know that that's exactly where she would be thinking.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's why did I think that way? I have no idea. But, maybe with
and I guess
more
just like any of us, your memories of Baghdad are these fragmented little films in your mind, eh?
Yes.
That maybe sometimes don't even have real context, or just could be. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I remember visiting my grandparents, visiting my cousins. I remember Christmas in the Middle East. I'm Roman Catholic, so there is Christmas and Easter and all that, but it's obviously done very privately in your own kind of home type of thing. It's not a national holiday. I remember, weirdly enough, if you really want to talk about stuff, I remember the Gulf War. I was 6 years old. I remember the sirens when the bombs were about to happen, and then going into the underground, shelters. I remember playing with marbles with the boys there, almost as if it was nothing. Just that I remember very vividly, because I was it's just a time in my life where I remember. So there's no trauma from it, not that I know of, unless I probably do therapy and discover that there is PTSD to some degree. But I mean, it's not something to joke about. But so yeah, I remember all of that. So what was it, 1990?
91.
91. Yeah, that makes sense.
And I was born in 84, so I remember all of that very, very vividly. Yeah, that's a whole other can of worms, really. So,
And when you guys came here, where did you land?
so we went from Iraq to Turkey, Istanbul for 2 years, because that's where we sort of started the application, the sponsorship application process. And then after 2 years, we came to Toronto and then lived in Etobicoke for a year. And that's all due to the sort of sponsorship application, is that we had to be with our sponsor, the main sponsor, which was my uncle at the time. We had to be with them for a year so that we couldn't get any, we weren't allowed to have any sort of like assistance from the government, so no welfare or anything like that. So for that year, we had to be financially supported by the people that said they would be okay to bring us here. It's a whole other process, which I don't really know much about. But all I know is that we were in Toronto for a year, and then after that year, we could travel anywhere in Canada. We could go and live wherever, as long as that year we were under someone else's sort of financial care. And then I remember we landed in August. I'd never met winter before. I'd never seen snow. So obviously our August weather is like pretty cool. And then it started to snow. And then I had a heart attack.
It didn't stop snowing.
Oh my God. Let me tell you, feeling cold for the first time when you're 15 or 14 years old is very different than
The
when
kind
you're...
of cold that takes your breath away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So it's pretty for the first 5 minutes, and then you're like, wait a minute, what the fuck? This isn't going anywhere.
It's amazing. It's like, holy shit, the cold just doesn't get normal. So it wasn't until last year when I bought my very first ever real Canadian jacket that I was like, oh yeah, now I know why people actually like walks in the winter. It's because that's the thing. You
have to dress properly.
Yeah, but like no one teaches you that. Like it's not in the ESL program. It's not like in the like there is no such thing as like, you know, the catalog for immigrants. Please read this before you land. Like no, there is no such thing, right? You just have to like figure it out. But
There are
like,
a lot of like born Canadian citizens that don't dress properly in the winter, so it's not just you.
Yeah, I only bought my first real winter coat a
It's
couple years
nice.
ago. Yeah.
Yeah. it's
It
fine.
has to be very, very heavy too, I find.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
now I know. Like I can go in the winter in the middle of like minus 10, 15 or whatever.
Exactly.
And like I'm not shivering, I'm not freezing. My like, you know, I'm normal. Now I know why, but it took me 20 fucking years to figure that out.
So what's neat is I find when I'm in the car listening to an interview, whenever so that first part of the interview went great because that's what I was hoping for in terms of, I get really drawn into an interview when I hear about people's childhoods in other countries. I don't know what it is, but as soon as I hear about that stuff, I just want to
Yeah.
hear all about that.
I think maybe you can try to either relate to them or put yourself in their position. Because we've all been kids. Anyone who's listening to this has been a kid themselves. I'm not sure this is a kid's show, but if you are listening, you probably have been a 5, 6, 7, 10-year-old before. So, you know.
I'm pretty sure kids have better things to do. So Snapchat comes to mind.
When I think about your high school years and I read your bio, I think how it looks like you already had a plan, you know, like you got to work right in high school. You somehow knew.
Oh, what I liked is in one of, was it in the bio or on the video? I'm not sure. The flight attendant story.
Oh, God, yeah.
Can you tell that in relation to also what Marshall's talking about with high school experience?
It's just, so again, remember, they're all random thoughts with no rhyme or reason. So I remember leaving Turkey, and then now we're flying to Canada with I think it's the KLM airline or whatever. So anyway, so I'm sitting there and we're flying and it's pretty damn cool. And then I see these women in uniform. And you have to understand, at the time, 25, 27 years ago in the Middle East, you know, I saw my mom. My mom had a job, but she also had a lot of kids and my aunts and uncles. I mean, you know, the women there didn't all have a job in Iraq. Some did, but most of them didn't. Most of them, you know, they were moms, and that's a wonderful thing. But I just wasn't exposed to a culture where women wore a uniform and worked, and they worked in the house. They just worked differently, right? And so when I saw a female flight attendant, and, you know, at the time, like when you're sort of 14 years old, you think that every pretty female is a very pretty girl, and you look at their hair and their makeup, and you kind of just want to grow up to be like them, right? Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh wow, like women here like can be a somebody. And I don't know what I meant when I said that. All I know is that I could see that she felt independent, she looked independent, she looked pretty confident.
She's in charge.
She's in charge.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And again, not to say that women weren't in charge back home, but they just were different. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that again, back to a 14-year-old perspective. And I was like to myself, okay, I could see me being a someone. Again, not knowing what I meant by that. So women here can be a somebody, and I'll be a somebody. And so I still don't know what that means.
But I'm pretty sure you nailed it, though.
And I think even now when you're in an airport and the flight attendants are walking together, mm-hmm. they have quite the presence. Like it looks like something important. And
maybe that's exactly. They demand respect, and they usually are very nicely put together mm-hmm. with polished shoes and, that whole sort of, So that really had an impact on me as far as like, just doing your own thing as a female, and not kind of giving into the expectations of what the culture might have and stuff. But again, it wasn't a complicated thought. It wasn't a thought that was deep. It was just a thought, just sort of passed through my mind, and then I thought about it, but I still remember it for whatever reason.
Made an impact.
It did make an impact, exactly.
So then relating that to what Marshall's asking about your high school years, and you started competing in high school.
Yeah.
So how did that come to be, right? Like what was the connection there? Like I can see it in admiring women and what they look like. Sure. And how exactly did you come into this line of work then?
Well, what a lot of people don't really know about me, actually, because I haven't really shared that with anyone, is that I have this real interest in, we talk about, horror movies and stuff like that. So I always thought that being a mortician was like the ultimate job.
Oh yeah,
I know. Like not many people know the story. So whoever's listening to this will be like, what? I'm sure clients will be like, hey, we heard that story. So here's how it goes. So I said to my parents, hey, I learned that in this culture, taking care of dead people is a job. And my dad's like, yeah, no, like you are not going to do that. You're going to go to school and you're going to get a real job. Because back home, we don't really have the whole process of like end of life.
Oh. It's a whole business here.
It's different, right? So we take our dead, we honor them, we bathe them, we whatever, and then we do our morning session, and then we do the whole church thing and mass and whatever, and we bury them. Within 24 hours, they're usually taken care of. Well, here I learned it's a whole other different world. So I was very drawn and very fascinated to that whole, like, how do they do it? What do they do? It was really interesting. So when I said that to my parents, I remember my dad saying, no, you have a brain, you can go to school, you can get a job, don't worry about that. I was like, oh my God. So I was like, all right, well, here goes my dream. I'm not going to be able to do this, which is an interest. So because when you're young and you're interested in something, you want to explore that. Mm-hmm. So then in grade 11, I had a spare. And I didn't know what I wanted to do or what I wanted to be. And my parents didn't think that being a mortician was a good idea or whatever. Anyway, it's so weird saying this because I never speak about the story. So then I filled a spare in grade 11 with a class that I thought was very little work and just mostly fun. Like I had no idea that they did tests, and which was cosmetology. Because every time I would walk by St. Mary's High School, the St. Jerome's campus, that's where the cosmetology class was. I walk by, peek through, just like a curious girl. And they're always just having fun. They don't look like they're ever doing tests or assignments. I was wrong. They do tests, they do assignments. So then when I filled my spare with that, I instantly was like, this is really cool. And I remember Mrs. Smith, Jane Smith to be exact, is the teacher that was in that teaching that program. She said, hey, who wants to compete? So I put my hand up. I didn't know what the word competing meant, but I put my hand up. I said, I'll do it. She's like, okay, well, stay after class and I'll explain it to you. I was like, okay, cool. What she was talking about was competing at Skills Ontario competitions in the hairstyling program. But I didn't know what the word compete meant because I was only in Canada 3 years at the time. I just knew that she wanted a volunteer to do something, and I put my hand up.
It sounds like your lazy spare is all just going out the window here.
So after that, I then entered the regionals, which then we won. and then I moved on to the provincials, and then I won that. It was at Bonn Park, and then I moved on to the Nationals Skills Canada competitions. I came in last, but let me tell you, it was one of the coolest experiences in 2000, and I think it was maybe 1 at the time. The following year, I won the Nationals, and then the third year, I came in third in the Nationals. And so basically, my journey to compete in the hairdressing program all started because I put my hand up to a word, didn't know what the hell it meant. My dad said no to being a mortician. So all of a sudden, like my work, like, do you see what I'm saying? Like,
Yep.
there's literally no reason for any of that. It just sort of happens. But my point to what I'm saying is to anybody who's listening, don't think about it. Just react. Just do it. Like, the more thoughts we put into things, the more.
Oh, I've ruined all kinds of good plans with too many thoughts.
I think thinking is good, but then I think it also can ruin things.
Yeah.
I don't know. Does that make sense?
It does.
to
I
anyone?
love that the serendipitous nature of some of these decisions that have been made for you, or raising that hand in the air, not knowing what you were getting into, have led you to this moment in your life, to this place where you are now.
And I'm very thankful for that question that was asked by by Miss Smith, and but the fact that I took the opportunity. So
Yeah, you must have felt the excitement around those competitions when you were
Oh my God.
in them, and just feeling like, wow, this is important.
yeah, well, I think maybe
Yeah.
too, talking about value, I think I felt important. I think I felt like I was doing something important, and we all want to do something important. We all want to feel valued to a certain level or degree.
Yeah, we want to feel like the work we're doing is worth doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm never worried about leaving a legacy or anything like that. I'm just a regular Joe living my life, but I want to feel like the life that I'm living has some meaning to it. Like there's some meat to what I'm doing every day, right?
Exactly. Yeah. No, absolutely.
Did your parents understand that work right away?
Which, the hairdressing?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. They
So
totally
live
support-
people are okay, but no dead
Well,
people.
that's just it. I'm like, what's the difference? Family and friends, I'll take care of and do a good deal. But no, just kidding. But yeah, they absolutely did. And so the trades has been so I'm a huge advocate for anything in the world of trades now. I always have been. But I guess what it did is, because I didn't come to Canada at an age where I was able to learn academically, because being 14 and trying to figure out if you want to go to med school is not that easy. So the trades gave me the opportunity to learn a trade, do a job with my hands and my personality, and not have to be able to, I speak English. I spoke decent English after 4 or 5 years of coming to Canada, but I don't use big words. I always ask what things mean, and I'm not shy at all about that. But being able to be a hairstylist and really connecting with people, regardless of how good my English was amazing. So, but there are so many wonderful things, that have happened to me since that. I don't know if I'm a people person because I'm a hairdresser, or if I'm a hairdresser because I'm a people person. I can't figure out which one is which.
Well, I was going to ask you, in the early years, did you feel like an outsider, or did you somehow see something in the culture of hairstyling where you thought, I feel like my personality fits here?
Yeah, I think I felt like I could do this and didn't have to, what I was being taught, I was being able to learn and apply. So that's what it was, maybe. So whatever technique I was being taught by my teacher or by a trainer to compete, I was able to pick it up and duplicate it, because so I can learn by just looking. So I'm a visual learner, I guess, and I'm also a very hands-on person. So you do something, you feel good about it, you want to do more of it, you feel really good about it, and then you continue, and then the momentum. That's it. Maybe that's the better word.
Well, I think about people who, for whatever reason, they don't get it early on for some reason. Maybe they think they want this, but you must have seen it yourself, where somebody just can't get it. Kind of like like acting or something, right?
There wasn't a lot of noise in my head, though. Like, that was just it. I was a young immigrant. I went home to my parents, and then I would go to school. So my world was it didn't have a lot of noise in it. It was just go to school, learn English, and hang out with my friends, or go home. Like, there was not a lot of other options. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I've heard George Stroumboulopoulos talk about this before, actually with Jessie Reyes, the Canadian musician, who I adore. And they talked about something I've mentioned a lot on the podcast, which is code switching. So at school, you get to be a teenager, new girl at school, lots of friends, doing what you do. But then at home, when you get there, inside your home is like a little Baghdad.
Exactly.
Right? So it's like, as soon as you cross that doorway, you're in this family zone where Canada kind of doesn't really come into the conversation as much, right? You're doing family traditions, and you're speaking your own language at home, and you're doing your own cooking and all that kind of stuff. It's like a little town in there.
You're sort of in a different world.
Yeah.
Literally. You enter a different world, and when you leave it, you go to school, you're not speaking proper English, but you're still engaged enough that you really want to go to that class and learn hairdressing and learn how to paint nails and learn how to do all of that stuff. So then I ended up sort of gravitating to the hands-on experience of being in the hair class. And then once I competed for Skills Canada, then what happened is I was just like so fascinated by the fact that there were young people and coaches and teachers, and we traveled, and we went to Winnipeg, and we went to BC, and so because that's wherever the nationals is, that's where you go. And so when I started to travel with my teammates and my teacher, I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. So I think it's all those experiences that we go through as young people during the time where we're so impressionable. Is that the word? Like when a lot of impressions are made and whatever. I guess I don't know how to put that word in a sentence.
You said it perfectly. And then you're talking about that momentum and the different steps that you took. So coming in last at that first Skills Canada and having that experience, I mean, like you said, coming in last wasn't
fun.
gonna, but it wasn't, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
So is that the next step? You're like, okay, when can I get back?
Well,
I'm gonna work my way up.
Because now I got a taste of what it was like. So that's the thing. Once you get a taste of it, and you're like, okay, now I know. Because I already did it once, and so that's when I ended up doing a sort of not a co-op placement, apprenticeship. Yeah. Yep. And my apprenticeship at the time was with Dee Forte, owner of Diva Hair. And I'm grateful for her because she then saw that little girl who was very eager, and she herself is a competitor, is a national competitor, international, I should say. And so she just took me under her wing, and she basically just showed me what the world of hair was internationally on a competition sort of level. And so, but my intrigue started in high school. And so she basically just was that bridge that took me as a high school kid, apprenticed me from no education, no private school, basically, because I went from high school to hairdressing. I didn't have any of that in between hair college education. So, and then in the apprenticeship program, you develop your skills. But I think it's because I was able to sort of get coached and trained, and we competed, her and I, and she just put me in any competition. And I'll tell you, as an employer today, it's an employer's dream to have a competitor, or not a competitor, to have an employee that wants to go to that next level. Because I've been an employer for 13 years now, so I have a bit of an understanding of what she felt with me at the time. Because
you need some kind of spark. You're looking for a spark from those people.
Exactly. And if you've got someone who's a keener, you want to give them the world. And I don't know what it's like to have kids. I'm not a parent, but I can tell you what it's like to have a good team that wants to learn, and you give them everything you got. So,
and you have those stylists. I've seen their curriculum.
Oh, they're amazing.
Right?
Yeah, they're amazing. Yeah.
Competitively, is it something where, year after year, does the pressure just build and build as these competitions get bigger and the stakes get higher?
Yeah. You put the pressure on yourself
That's
too.
what I thought you were going to say.
100%. I am not a good loser. Oh my God. I've had to learn to lose I don't lose very often, but when I did, or if I did, oh my God, I remember. Yeah. So then after Skills, obviously I did, national competitions with the Allied Beauty Association. And then I ended up being on Hair Olympics, which is an international event. It takes place in Europe. It does travel to the States and Canada, but OMC Hair World is an international event, and it's a very prestigious event. So I ended up being, my first competition internationally was in 2006, and we went to Moscow. So, it's crazy and I've won 3 championships, which is incredible at that level. So like I've reached, sort of that height, and it's like, I still freak out. I still get nervous. I still can't have breakfast when I compete because...
I saw that on your video.
Oh my God. It's like you think I'm a junior, but it doesn't matter. Anyone who competes at whatever level, even if you talk to any of the international Olympic competitors, they still get nervous. It's because you care. So anytime someone says, I'm nervous, I'm like, yeah, it's because you care. That's what I tell myself. So
So what happens when it is time to compete? When it's like, here we go. Do you somehow find yourself in some kind of zone and you're able to block everything else out?
Absolutely, yes. I can't hear anything. I can't see anything. And you start to, you literally, so I don't know what time is like when you're outside of this world, like how fast time goes in other planets, but it's not a normal time when you're competing. And anyone who's competing or who's competed in anything that's listening to this will understand that if you have 30 minutes to do your haircut, I'm like, oh my God, that was 30 minutes. Like it felt like it was only like maybe 15 or 10. And then you're like, the haircut's done because we've trained so hard on that. And so I work internationally with a good friend of mine. His name is Ken Hebert, and hopefully he's listening to this and smiling, but he's someone who I work with very closely. And we went to the Worlds and won the championship together. But the training that it takes to compete is unbelievable. So I think that, yes, it's you rely on that and you do a lot of training. And everything that you do during that training, I think, in a way, you create this kind of like interesting... I'm reading about neuroplasticity, which is probably a very fascinating subject to me right now. But it's cool how much what you do every day and how much you do every day creates these neural pathways in your brain and ends up sort of impacting your behavior and all of that. And I'm not even going to start to get into it because I'm not an expert at all. But everything that we've done to train does make the day of and that moment exactly the way it's supposed to be. It's not an accident, you see. Winning is not really an accident. I think it's planned. I think that... Does that make sense?
Well, of course it does. I mean, that's like saying somebody who wins a race or an Olympic event that's not hair. That's like saying that what they did was an accident. Like they just woke up that morning and decided to go and do it. No, there's tons of work that has to be put into it. For the hair geeks, for people that get what you're talking about, what does the training take? What is your planning like when you're getting ready? Do you need to reach like 3 inches to your right and know that your scissors are there?
Yes.
Like that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. So if we are talking about the Hair Olympics, which is the OMC Hair World, so the training for that starts about 8 months, 8 to 12 months before the date, and then you start with the concept. So you work with a team. So Ken and I are the team that usually work together, and then we bring other team members on. But if I'm talking about the training alone, he'll design the look about 8 to 12 months before, and then I will then meet with him. He's from Winnipeg. I'll meet with them with 9 months still left, and then we'll critique the haircut. We will break it down. We will completely disassemble the actual design, and then we will basically cut as many mannequins as we can afford. So competing is not very cheap because each mannequin, it's real hair, and we train on mannequins that have yak hair. Yak is the closest to human hair structure that we can have, but the color is white, so that you can actually color that hair to be exactly what you want it to be. So you can turn white hair into anything you want, but you can't take human hair that's dark and bleach it and then try to color it the way that you want. So we work with yak-haired mannequins, and they're fantastic mannequins from a brand.
Sorry, there's enough length to the hair of yak hair?
Yeah, yak. The ones that we do for the cutting category is about 8 to 12 inches. Maybe
that's a hairy yak.
8 to 10 inches of length. Yeah, it's actually pretty cool. So they range about $150 to $200 a mannequin head. So, and they're a single use, meaning that once you cut it once, you've trained on it.
That's it.
That's it.
And is this what you use in the competition for
yeah,
that?
we do. Yeah, they're certified mannequins or models, right? So depending on what category you're entering, because there's over 50 categories at that level, each category calls for a different type of, I guess, either model or mannequin. But if it's a mannequin, it's got to be a certified mannequin from a certain brand, so then they know exactly that you're using the right stuff.
Right.
If it's a live model, whether male or female, they'll tell you. If it's a men's competition or a women's competition, they'll specify. But in the creative categories that we enter the progressive category, which are like pretty avant-garde, like stuff that you and I would never wear. And we don't want to.
But I want to. When I see your photos, I'm like, oh man.
I'm fascinated by these heads with the yak hair on them.
Oh,
do they all come like the same in terms of like they've got this head of hair with a part like in the middle or something, and like I don't know, like
There isn't a yak face. It'll be a human face.
It's exactly. So yeah, no, but you're right. They're all made so that the hair is at natural fall.
And it falls in a natural way.
You got it. And
Wow.
there's a distribution point, and then you can put bangs on them. So if you want a fringe or a bang or whatever, the hair comes forward. But there's such great quality mannequins that you can give them a fringe, because usually if you've got a cheap mannequin and you want the hair to come forward on the forehead, it'll just kind of like do like a silly thing where it just won't be able to.
Oh, that must be very satisfying then as a stylist to cut hair that, like, it must feel good to know that when you're going to make that cut, it's going to do what you want.
That's it. Yeah. 20 years
And you
later,
can shave
I'm
it
still
down
doing
short.
it.
And
Back
put,
to the yak.
Oh, yeah.
you can shave it down short and put designs in it like it behaves like a human head.
Absolutely. I'm going to bring you a mannequin. I'm going to the salon.
We should do it.
So that's it. So that's the training. You basically take a year, you prepare for it, you do multiple haircuts, and then you design and redesign. And we're training up until the hour of, and there's a lot of training that happens in your mind, actually. Close your eyes and you go through the haircut section by section by section. But I do the color work for the mannequin, so I know exactly. One advantage that I have is I know exactly where the sections are, because I put the sections in there for the color. Because the interesting thing is you're doing, and you may not understand exactly what I'm trying to say, but the haircut, you take a 10-inch yak hair and you cut it to anywhere from like half an inch to 4 inches, right? So you go really, really short depending on the design. But the hair color is already in there. So when you're cutting it, you better have the color exactly where you want it to be. Because if the color is not there, do you understand what I'm saying?
Oh, totally. It's like you need the puzzle to work.
Exactly.
If you've got, I'm in my mind, I'm picturing a yak head.
Like so take your length, right?
Yeah. And then if I've got, like, I'm picturing black, like my color.
Sure.
And then if I've got, or dark, whatever this is, if I've got the pink or whatever going just a little bit too much this way, then you would have to modify. Like,
Yes.
I'm rubbing my head in a way that makes it sound like I know what I'm talking about, people. You'd have to modify because you want that section to be in that cut.
Exactly. And so not only is it just a section, it's a section that now has a design inside of it. And inside that design, there's another element. So everything has to be done on the root level, but you've got this 10 inches of hair you're working with. So,
right.
But that's why we win, because we know what we're doing.
No,
it's true. Because
you can say that. Like you said, you're at the top level. Like,
it takes a lot of friggin' practice to get to that level.
Oh,
though.
boy.
How did you know when the time was right to start Artline Salon? And what was your original vision for it, what it turned out to be?
I had no vision because I was 23. I knew that all I needed was a mirror, a pair of scissors, and a chair, and a client. Again, remember how I told you about, like, my thoughts aren't as elaborate at the time as what they end up being in the reality. Yeah, and so I was just really young, and I had gotten my license, and I was just very eager to figure out, because I knew I wanted probably to do a little bit more, or I wanted to, because when you start competing, the problem is there is no such thing as enough. Like, that's the problem I think that I deal with sometimes in life, is that, like, okay, what's next? Well, how about just hanging out with yourself? Well, no, because, like, momentum, you can't stop momentum. See, that's what I'm basically. So back to 13 years ago, because Artline's 13 years old on December 5th. So this is being released around that time. So it's pretty cool. But so I knew I could do something more. And then it just happened. It was just, I knew a few friends at the Chamber of Commerce, and we all at the Chamber kind of talk about, different business ideas and thoughts and whatever. And it was just out of a networking meeting. This thing was born, the idea of me kind of going on my own, and it wasn't intentional and it wasn't planned at all, and it just so happened where, I had this 1,000 square foot space. I was renting it. I had a handful of clients, and it's really interesting when people see what you're doing, and if you love what you're doing, everyone wants to help you. I think that that's what's really cool about this community, is when you love what you do and people recognize that, then we kind of all help each other. So there was an incredible amount of clients that referred other clients, or guests that referred other guests. And before you know it, it's 13 years ago. Like, again, and I've got a great team that I work with, but they all individually were groomed through the same way that I was. So from an apprenticeship, well, it starts off at co-op, because I want to get to know them a little bit more. Co-op is a great program because they give you 200 hours of their time, and then they get to see if they want to work for you too. So they all come from around the area, whether it's St. Mary's High School, St. Benny's High School, St. Louis Adult Learning Center. That's where we get a lot of our students from. And that's it, really. So we work with them. We then accept them as an apprentice. We groom them. It's 2,500 hours or 2.5 years. No, sorry, 2.5 years or 3,800 hours. So it takes a while. And then I've got 2 girls right now that are ready to be licensed at Artline that were just awesome team members. And so the team's always kept small. So yeah.
My question's for Sara. So when I came upon Artline Salon's site for the first time, I thought, wow, when I saw it, it made me really, really happy. And it just stands out from anything else I've seen. Is that how it started? Is it, the way Artline looks now, did you start off so bright and bold and colorful like that?
So yes, only because I think that that's just who I am as a person. I'm not very shy. So yes, I think it always was just very authentic in that, because I learned how to do competition through photography as well as live, because what we just discussed was live competition. There's a whole other world that's photographic competition.
You just enter in your piece.
Exactly. So then when you learn how to do hair and you photograph it beautifully, I think what happens is you're able to use that in a way that expresses to the public, or even just to you, Marshall, like what you're seeing there. It's all basically 100% our work. So what happens when you use your own material and it's photographed well, it looks very vibrant and bold. And so, yes, I started shooting my work very, very, again, back to when I started, at Diva. Like, that's just what you do. So
I guess that's what I was asking, Sara, is as a photographer, you must have noticed this.
Well, the first thing I thought is, who's taking these photos? That's the first thing I thought.
Yeah.
And so to be able to compete nationally or internationally in a photographic competition, which has nothing to do with the OMC world that I was talking to, because they're 2 different worlds, you have to be able to capture your work beautifully. But before that, the person doing the hair has to know what they're doing, and the models have to be the right fit, and the colors got to be like, so you've got hair, makeup, fashion, hairstylist, photography, lighting. As you know, as a photographer, it's all got to come together. And these are not done with the cell phone. Like, these are like professional photos done by professional people. So everyone working on these pictures has a purpose, and they know what they're doing. So, but when I look back at the old work you're talking about, because yes, Artline did start this way, but when I look back at the work that I did 13 years ago, it was really sweet and young and a bit sort of naive. And then as I progressed in my profession, my work became a lot more reflective of who I was as a person. Do you know what I mean? But again, I didn't think of it that deeply. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, there's a collection that I've done, and it's an Avant-Garde Collection, and it's won the Avant-Garde category. But it's the most bold, crazy. I still to this day think, holy shit, like, how did I do that? And it's black and white.
I saw those. They're gorgeous.
They're
lots
really
of height.
Cool. Yeah.
Lots of graphic, like, angular cuts.
Exactly. That actually, you might appreciate this. You said you're an artist, Marshall? Yeah, okay. So I think you like this. In 2009, I was doing a cleanse in the sort of the cleansing room, and there was music on, and it was the band Enigma. And so that music is very dark and churchy, and sometimes even like sort of very just weird. So I was listening to this music, and then this image sort of popped into my head of models that had their eyes were closed. The photos were black and white, but super interesting and white skin, almost like as if they were dead. Okay. And so, of course, the collection was born from that, just a vibe that I got from that band.
Yeah, it's kind of otherworldly.
Very. Yeah. I love it. Yeah. So that's what created the collection, the Avant-Garde Collection, that I don't really have a name for it. But if you look at the models, they're white, they're all painted. Like, they're white-faced, like they look pale, they look dead, with like eyelids that are shut and crazy hair. And I love that. And it's very sort of smooth. Like, there's 2 different textures, if you notice, smooth and frizzy.
I did see that,
Just 2 different textures.
And the white face with the sort of dead look that you're talking about, it draws so much attention
to the hair.
And
the hair is black.
But now that I hear the story behind the vision, I'm going to go back and look at them.
You're
because
a dark,
the faces,
dark soul, Lina.
It's the darkness, that mortician darkness that you were talking about. I want to ask a little bit about young people and working with co-op and your mentoring. Like, what I've found as I get older is there's a lot that I learn from young people all the time. They have a lot to offer, new ideas, fresh ideas, even though they're green and they're learning. Have you had the same experience working with co-op students and through all the mentoring that you've done?
Yes, I think that every student, to be really honest with you, that has evolved to become an apprentice and an employee at Artline Salon, each one of them is a pile of experiences that I have grown from. So if that makes any sense, to you, right? So every person, from back to 13 years ago, like my very first apprentice, I learned so much about myself. Because here's the thing, no one teaches you how to be an employer. No one teaches you how to be a business person. Not that no one teaches you, but I didn't have the opportunity to go to school to learn how to be a business owner at 23 and an employer.
How do I do taxes, right?
Well, that's just it. Yeah. So every one of them has taught me something about myself, first of all. And then, of course, I have always said there is no Artline without the team. I don't care I don't care how cool I think I am or how much I want to be a somebody. That's another thing, is you can't do it on your own.
No.
It's not a one-man show.
That's not fun either.
Well, it's just never been my thing. So yeah, absolutely. Like I remember, how do I say this to you? So I remember learning how to talk to someone. And so I'm an older child of 5. So there's 5 of us. I'm the oldest kid. So obviously, as an older person or as an older sibling, you're kind of like, you yell at your siblings or whatever. So I remember talking to my staff, or my one team member in particular, the way that I would talk to my sister. And then I realized, holy shit, no, that's not how you talk to people that you work with. But I didn't know any different until I realized that it wasn't right.
Because there's just, like you said, everyone's coming from their own pile of experiences.
Exactly.
There's just so much emotion and loaded behavior into the people from their parents and their own siblings and their own shit that they've grown up with.
Absolutely.
Or their own positivity that they've grown up with. And they might not get big sister Lina.
Well, that's just it.
I wish you had told me this 20 years ago, as I struggled with people in my workplace, not understanding why they behaved the way they did. It would have helped for me to understand that, and I would have showed a lot more.
Well, sometimes people are just dicks, though.
Yeah, no. But what Lina's talking about is, boy, that would be helpful to know, when you're younger. Yeah.
But because listen, life has not been the easiest, and I have my own, issues that I still deal with every day. But like, how do you look at yourself in the mirror and recognize that without really having the awareness to do that? So obviously I didn't learn how to be a boss. I kind of just, not in school I didn't. And then I learned how to be sort of a team member, a leader, a trainer, a friend, all because of my team. And so I'm very lucky to say that there is no turnover at Artline Salon. And I'm very, very proud of that, because in 13 years, I've only had 2 members move on and 1 pass away. So I've only had 3 people that are no longer with me. But that's a little bit difficult to, it's unheard of, I guess.
I was going to wait for you to finish, and I was going to say that is unheard of, actually. Yeah. It really is.
It's really, really cool.
Employee retention is huge, and turnover is a big deal. And even large corporations with great, huge benefit packages and bonus programs struggle with retention.
You just have to look at them and see them as people and put yourself in their shoe. If you don't do that, if we don't put ourselves in our employees' shoes, I don't think we deserve to be employers. And it's a very bold statement, but it's the only way to, I think it's the only way to run a company, is just put yourself in your shoe, and then just see things from their perspective. There's 2 books I read, 3 books actually, that helped me also see this perspective. One of them is the How to Win Friends, Influence People, right? Yep. That one. Mm-hmm. The other one, the E-Myth. Mm-hmm. And then the third one is Quiet Leadership. And so the thing about all of them, and I highly recommend Quiet Leadership because it was just so cool. You just learn if you just saw things from someone else's perspective, if you just did that, your life would change. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't argue with people anymore. That's what happens to me is I'll look at you and let's say you're upset with me. Well, I don't have to be upset with you that you're upset with me. I just have to put myself in your shoe, and I know why you would be upset with me. And I just have to say to you, I totally see why the hell you're pissed off at me, because I would too. And that's not really being a small person. Like, you don't, do you know what I mean? Like,
no, it's being a big person, really.
But sometimes saying sorry, it's like, why do I want to say sorry? And it's like, yeah, because the person just wants to be acknowledged. And yeah, and I fucked up, because we all do.
We all do, every day. And honestly, what you're saying about being an employer and putting yourself in their shoes, especially in a field where you guys are creating and people are trusting you literally with their heads. Like,
yeah, literally.
They're trusting themselves to you. You don't want employees to feel like they're not recognized or like they're not seen or heard. Right? You want them to feel like they're part of something.
And that's just exactly.
That's the whole team thing.
You want them, I always say, look at Artline as if it's yours. And when you do, when you give them that permission, it's amazing what they do. Yeah.
I've read a bit about leadership, and the thing I took away from whatever it was I read was that really good leaders show the people they're leading, I guess, their own potential. As opposed to telling them what they should do and how they should do something, rather showing them what they're capable of that maybe they don't recognize in themselves. You must see that in people where you realize this person's got something maybe they don't fully grasp themselves.
It's really interesting. Here's the truth, team at Artline. I never see them as who they are today. I only ever see them as their potential, which is sometimes a little frustrating to be them, if I'm being honest with you. Because maybe sometimes what you think their potential is not their hopes and dreams and aspirations for themselves. You know, and sometimes they don't even realize that that's their potential, and you help them as a leader reach their potential. Because oftentimes when they're coming to us and they're, you know, between the age of like 17 to 22 or whatever, not everyone knows their potential at that age. And they
might pick something else. Even if they might turn out to be the next gold winning OMC or the entrepreneur of the year or woman of the year, just like you've accomplished all of these things, that might not be what they want. Like you're saying, that might not be what they're going to pick for themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you have to be okay if they say to you, hey man, what you think I want is not what I actually want. And so I've heard that from my team before. I've heard it from one or two of them that say, I appreciate what you think of me, but that's not where I want to be. And so that's when you have to just as their friend, be like, hey man, thanks for at least letting me know. So it's not always easy to be with because I'm always kind of wired in a way that I always look for their potential, which is sometimes very frustrating for me. But that's the next thing is I've got to learn to chill.
How do you chill when you're running your own business?
You don't.
Yeah.
Anyone who does run their own business, even when I'm like out for dinner with my friends or at home with people over, they look at me and they're like, do you ever stop? I'm like, well, it's just in my nature to kind of always kind of be on the go. But it's like a hardwiring thing, right? It's like when you're a parent, maybe, I think, too. You're never really not a parent.
No, you're not.
Yeah. It's maybe the only way I can kind of...
Yeah.
So I guess pre-pandemic, you did a lot of public speaking. Yeah. So how do you approach that? What is it you're talking about to, I guess, varying ages of people and students?
It depends on what the program that I'm part of is. So whether it is the education, what is it? Business and education partnership. So that's a program where we go to high schools and elementary schools, and you're talking to high school kids or elementary school kids. And so if the topic is about entrepreneurship, you just got to be real with people like that. And so they ask questions like, how much did it take to cost your or to start your business? And, did you need a lot of money? How did you find your money? So you've got to just bring things to the audience's level. So I've done that, and I've done things where you just talk to a bunch of students that want to be business owners. So I remember this one campaign or program that I was a part of that was with Lutherwood, and it was for adults that wanted to open their own businesses, and so they brought in local business owners, and then that's when the conversations just get really real about the expectations of how to manage a business and run a business, and hopefully it's successful. So I think I just figure out who the audience is, what it is that they what can I sort of leave them with that's going to keep them a little bit more aware. I call it the elastic of the brain. I need to stretch their elastic. So the truth is always the best thing to sort of say, I think, even when it's not always, the easiest. Because it does take, a while before a business owner sees profit, or...
It's 3 to 5 years of the onset, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And so you have to be able to be honest with people. So it depends on, I guess... The answer to that question is it depends on who the audience is and what they want to learn and what's the intention of the program,
When it comes to your the people who work for you, what's your expectation with regard to their own hair? Their own hair creates a part of the presentation of Artline Salon, right?
Yeah.
And, I'm thinking about how...
Or even your hair. Somebody, I guess, cuts your hair.
Yeah.
Unless you cut your own hair.
Yeah.
I just mean, so I think of it like these are works of art, right? And it's all part of the presentation of Artline. And I think it's an important part of it, isn't it?
Oh, this is a bit of an interesting topic for me. So for me, as long as people look authentic, because I honestly don't know how to say this other than dress as if you were going to go to a bank and borrow $1 million after work, or if someone passed away and you heard about the fact that they were having a funeral and you could go to the visitation after work, or you are going to go on a romantic dinner with your partner. So the way that the team represents themselves, in my opinion, has to be so that you are, first of all, I think you have to look authentic and respectful. And if you can go to a funeral or a bank or a cocktail party, maybe not a cocktail party, but like a really nice sort of dinner, then I think that you have done your job as a professional. And so I am a huge believer in looking and acting professional. And so sometimes in our industry, the idea of looking a certain way or behaving a certain way or even like grooming your hair or whatever, it's a questionable sort of, and again, people may not like what I'm about to say, but I think that we have to represent ourselves in a way that we earn respect from anyone who's either 80 years old sitting in our chair to their grandkid or great grandkid. You know what I mean? Like, I think that you have to be able to represent yourself appropriately, no matter who your guest is. And that's a huge thing for me. So back to your hair question, as long as obviously it's appropriate to who you are, because I'm a lot more conservative, in the last few years of my life than I was when I was in my 20s. I don't know where that's come from. I'm not sure why that is, but I love my hair dark and I love it sort of away and out of my face. And I just really love to be able to like turn my head and be able to see both, what is that? The
peripheral.
Thank you.
No problem.
Without any distraction.
But when you're young, it's like all gloomy and like you don't mind if one eye is covered.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like a lot more expressive. And so as I get older, I just want to be a lot less loud in life, because I find that maybe my head is a lot busier. Like I have a lot more thoughts in my head, that my image needs to just be mostly wearing black, hair up, tied, out of the way. And with masks on, it feels really good to kind of have that. And for my team, as long as it is like got some of their own self-expression, but overall their image has to be just super clean, professional, and they have to be able to appeal to any guest at any point throughout the day and be able to attend functions after work and still be respected, because that to me is very, very important. I don't know how else to say that or answer your question.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, do you see things in your stylist? I'll give an example. So I taught life drawing at the university for many years. That's drawing from a live model.
Okay.
A live nude model.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And I know if I was to draw a model, if I was to draw you right now, Lina, let's say if you turned your head to your right, so looking out the window.
Yeah.
I can draw your profile on the left much better, or it would take much more work than if you were turned this way to the right for me. I can't explain why that is, but it's something that happens with artists where we get to a place where we can do one particular thing really, really well if things are situated in this way. But if you move these things around a certain way, they become more or less challenging.
Okay.
Is hairstyling like that at all, where you notice you have hairstylists who kind of go to a certain way of doing things, and that's where they're either comfortable or that's where they feel like they're in their wheelhouse and can really do their best if they can work in that realm?
Yes, absolutely. 100%. We all end up having our own DNA when it comes to hairdressing. And so whether it is in the way that we work or in the way that we do hair or in the way that we sort of express, and sometimes it actually, you can see it in the clientele. So if you look at, let's say, you know, stylist A, you can pretty much, just by looking at her or him or they, and kind of like spending a few hours kind of watching them, you're able to then sort of create that sort of perception about them, and then you end up seeing that authenticity throughout their entire sort of all the different areas of their life or their career, right? And the client is an expression of that, what you're talking about. So sometimes it's not just how we do hair, it's just who sits in our chair and who gravitates to us, and then who ends up calling and requesting that person. You know, it's really cool to see that. So I'm seeing a lot of that right now with the different team members. Each team member has you know, a group of guests that like feel very connected to them, and it's okay that it's not the same ones that are connected to me or the rest of the team members. And so yes, definitely it's there, you know, and it's okay that it's that way, because at first I was like, everybody's going to be okay with everyone, but sometimes comfort sets in and personalities, especially now, because you want people to be expressive and you want them to be who they are, no matter what their hair looks like, you know, because when the client sits in the chair, you're connecting with another human being that's like super special. So I now accept and celebrate people through the way that they work, through the way that but it all has to be professionally. See, so there's still standards that they all have to meet no matter what, but how they go about their day, there's a bit of flexibility, because it's got to be fun to be a hairstylist, but there still has to be that sort of, you know, bar that you've got to, I guess, reach as a team member at Artline. And that's kind of my culture. That's what I see the culture of the company as. So there is like, it's like an umbrella. There's like the culture and what I believe my company should be like. And then you find the right team members that sort of like support your culture. And then you still need to give them a little bit of freedom, because we're all human. You see, we're not robots. It's not just like a brand of computers, right? It's the humankind. So you've got to be able to have people be who they are, but we all belong to one mission, one vision, one culture, you know? So there are non-negotiables at the salon. And then there are times where I say, guys, make it your own company. I literally have said that to them, is like, pretend Artline's yours. What would you do different? And that's something I've had to learn, you know, is to invite them to find the answers. Because here's the thing, no matter what the owners are dealing with, whatever challenges owners are dealing with in whatever company, the answer is with our team. All you have to do is give yourself permission to ask, so they can now tell you what the answer is. But you've got to be open to that. And so
you can be right, or you can be,
what do you mean?
know, like, well, I'm just saying, it sounds to me like if you were the kind of employer that's bouncing around in there who's always right and
You're
not reaching out to their employees.
You're going to be alone.
Yeah, you're going to be alone, and you're not going to be as successful, right? Like, you can be right or you can be good at what you do, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the answers are all with our team. All you have to do is give them the permission to speak up and the space to speak up. And then me as the owner, I want that. Because that's the best thing to be, is to have a company that doesn't need you. It's nice to have you, but doesn't need you.
That they can run a tight ship
Exactly.
when you're not there.
Exactly. And that all started because I opened the company with the fact that I always traveled and competed and did shows and hair. So what happens is I was not the type of owner that didn't trust the team, because as soon as I opened Artline, I had a competition that I was going to. So you start to kind of, and it's funny, you don't realize that that's who you become. Like, I wasn't planning on being that kind of owner. I just was that kind of owner. I got to go to Paris for a week. Have a good day. If you need anything, call me. Or if there's an accountant and whatever, like someone you trust, then you say, for this problem, call this person. Otherwise, I'm here. But if you really need me, you can reach me. So Artline started with the idea that I was not always around if I didn't have to be, and I could be away, and I didn't lose, sleep. And so I always came back to a place with no theft, no problems, no arguments, no issues, because they just got trained like that. You see, we all trained each other to just be responsible people. It's not easy, but it's possible. Necessity is the mother of invention.
Because you invented this
culture. Yeah, out of necessity. That's exactly it. I had to go away. It needed to be a certain way in order for me to go compete. So it just became that way.
Hey all, thanks for meeting us in Bonn Park. Please like, rate, and subscribe to our podcast on the platform that you're listening to. And follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Bonn Park Podcast. Original music by Alan Lung.